Todd Christensen was a trailblazer. Born in Bellefonte, Pennsylvania, Christensen moved to Eugene, Oregon at a young age. He attended Sheldon High School, where he excelled at football, baseball, and track. He was recruited by Oregon, Oregon State, Wyoming, and a few other schools, but most envisioned him at linebacker or defensive end, due to his 6'3", 235-pound frame. But Christensen wanted to follow in the footsteps of his childhood idols, Jim Brown and Jim Taylor. So he decided to commit to BYU, where he was assured he could play offense. With the Cougars already having a solid runner in Jeff Blank, Christensen didn't carry the ball as much. But once coaches realized he had excellent hands, his role evolved into that of a pass catcher. He ended up leading the team in receptions in 3 of his 4 seasons there, and left the program with 152 receptions for nearly 1,600 receiving yards and 13 scores through the air. He went on to be selected by the Dallas Cowboys in the second round of the 1978 draft, and entered a crowded backfield that included Tony Dorsett, Robert Newhouse, Scott Laidlaw, and Preston Pearson. Despite the competition, Christensen was having an excellent preseason and started to emerge at fullback, but unfortunately suffered a broken foot in the last exhibition game, sidelining him for the year. The Cowboys tried to convert him to tight end the following season, but he was reluctant to make the move. He briefly entertained the change, but was ultimately unwilling to make the switch, leading Dallas to release him before the season started. The New York Giants claimed him, but he was released again only after a couple of weeks. He eventually signed with the Raiders in 1979 and was viewed as a reclamation project. Still hesitant to play tight end, Christensen instead joined special teams and became a key contributor. While he didn't see the field on offense very much for the next 3 years, he did manage to have an impact during the Raiders' 1980 championship run, scoring 2 touchdowns that season, one on a fumble recovery following a muffed kick, and the other in the first round of the playoffs against Houston, his only reception that year. Eager to do more, he eventually relented and agreed to become a tight end, a decision which proved wise and paid dividends immediately. Beginning in 1982, when Christensen broke out in a strike-shortened season for 42 receptions, 510 receiving yards, and 4 touchdowns, finishing 4th among all tight ends in receiving. He followed it up in 1983 with a league-leading 92 receptions for a career-best 1,247 yards and 12 touchdowns. The catches were an NFL record for the position at the time, and the scores tied Mike Ditka and Jerry Smith for the most ever in a season by a tight end. He earned his first of 4 consecutive All-Pro selections and his first of 5 trips to the Pro Bowl. The Raiders finished 12-4 and went on to capture their second Super Bowl title in 4 years. Christensen produced 14 receptions for 134 yards across 3 postseason games, and firmly established himself as a premier tight end, alongside Kellen Winslow and Ozzie Newsome. Seemingly becoming a star out of nowhere, Christensen had one of the most prolific 4-year runs in NFL history, racking up 349 receptions for 4,394 yards and 33 touchdowns between 1983 and 1986. He managed to break his own reception record for tight ends during that stretch as well, advancing the mark to 95 in 1986, a number which once again led the league that season. Christensen also became the first player in league history, regardless of position, to record at least 80 receptions in 4 consecutive seasons. Perhaps most impressive was that he accomplished this on a run-centric offense that was devoid of Pro Bowl quarterback. While Jim Plunkett and former BYU teammate Mark Wilson were skilled in their own right, they didn't match the talent level of the signal callers his contemporaries had, such as Dan Fouts, Brian Sipe, or Bernie Kosar. While Christensen wasn't the fastest, he was strong, had elite hands, and had a knack for finding soft spots in the defense. He was also excellent at picking up yards after the catch, a solid blocker, and was instrumental in helping reshape the perception of tight ends, who were largely viewed as glorified linemen up until then. Were it not for Kellen Winslow and Ozzie Newsome, Christensen would have likely been a member of the 1980s All-Decade team, which would have strengthened his already compelling Hall of Fame case. Moreover, when comparing peak statistics, All-Pros, and Pro Bowls, Christensen not only stacks up to his peers, but he exceeds them in certain aspects. While he didn't fit the typical renegade mold of most Raiders players during that time, he certainly had a large personality, along with an unmistakable mustache and mullet. which helped him find his place among a team full of perceived misfits. His outspokenness didn't always sit well with some of his teammates, but it did help him earn a role as a color commentator after retiring in 1988. Sadly, Christensen tragically passed away in 2013 at the age of 57 due to complications related to liver transplant surgery. However, his impact on the game is still felt today. Considering he had to be talked into playing a position he had no desire to, I'd say he did alright for himself. I want to thank you for watching, and I would love to hear if you think Todd Christensen deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.